the hoop dance, native hoop dance, is this beautiful embodiment of interconnectedness. The dance is the embodiment of interconnectedness. So when I had first seen it in the revival, it brought tears to my eyes, because I was like, that right there is so powerful, so potent. It's hard to put into words what it did for me, but it activated my heart and this remembrance. And yeah, I don't know that dance, but I know that dance.
Welcome back to the Sacred Soul Podcast. I am Vanessa Soul, your host. I'm here with Christine Hernandez. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, same here. So I like to ask most of my guests a philosophical question, since I'm like a Scorpio, but it could be, and you can answer it however you feel called. Who are you and who are you not?
So I am a spiritual being having a human experience. I am not the projections or stories that anyone has of me. I am so much more than you can see and fathom, and so multidimensional, multifaceted, magical, incredible child of magic, just like we all are.
I love that. So good. And let's start off with just discussing a little bit about your background and how did you come into this journey that you're in today?
Yeah, so where shall I begin? I mean, I came into the world magical like we all do as a child, and I went through the human experience and forgot my beauty, forgot my magic, forgot myself, all parts of myself. I was really disconnected in my 20s. So my mom raised me as a single parent, a first generation Mexican American. My father had left when we were about 3 years old. He had been an immigrant from Guatemala, and he fled Guatemala when he was about 5 years old. And they met in high school, and they had me very, very young. So my mother raised me as a single parent. And, there was a lot of neglect and a lot of toxicity, honestly, growing up because of the environment that I was in. She dated a lot of gangsters, actually, a lot of cholos. That was her. She had a type. And, she was really young and she was still figuring out herself. And I saw a lot of things that were difficult for me. And I had my imagination that really supported me at that time, which is such a beautiful thing to realize. Like, all children were so magical, and our imaginations are so helpful and so beautiful in supporting us and connecting with the magical realms and with our hearts. So yeah, and my father took his life when I was 22. It was the same month I turned 22. And that really was traumatic for me as well. And so in my 20s, I really went deeply into numbing. I wasn't able to cope with big feelings, with the trauma, with those wounds. And so I went into numbing my feelings. I ate a lot, whatever it could be, to just escape. I would drink, I would go out, I would party, I even did drugs. I tried all the things, right, to escape. And I was in a really toxic relationship for about 4 or 5 years. And I decided to end that and change my life. And when was that? That was in mid 2015, or beginning of 2015. And I realized like it was time to just change everything. I knew I wanted something more, and I wasn't exactly sure what that was, but I just started to question what do I want, and I turned to self-help books. Books were really supportive for me. So was yoga. Yoga was really supportive. I threw myself into yoga, and I realized, well, this is something I want here. These people have that thing called peace, like, that I've heard of in the books and the movies, that I didn't really quite understand until yoga came into my life and really supported me in reconnecting back to myself. And then I went into yoga teacher training, and in that yoga teacher training, I was introduced to Mayan cacao from Guatemala, and it changed the trajectory of my life for sure. This was something I had no idea what cacao was. I'd never heard of it, never experienced it. And so that just blew my mind, that there was this ancestral plant medicine that I never have heard about. And it being from Guatemala, like my father was from Guatemala, it was so precious and so exciting to me to realize, like, oh, there's something there that I can connect to, right? Because I had always wanted the ability to connect with my father and felt like I had lost that opportunity to ever like know that part of myself, So yeah, it honestly, in the first or second ceremony, it opened me up to connect with my heart, connect with
Mhm.
my ancestors. And there was a knowing that I was meant to work with this medicine for my heart healing and also to share it with other people. So I knew it was important. I knew it was an important piece to my puzzle of life. And so I've been sharing about cacao ever since. And cacao is that beautiful grounding plant medicine. It's heart medicine, people call it as well. And it supports you in connecting with your roots. So that, right, connecting with cacao supported me, and then coming into this, into the journey of remembering and connecting with the ancestors.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, what a beautiful summary. I mean, there's challenges within that, right? Like your
Yeah.
father passing when you were 22. But I feel like you just took us on a journey of your life so far. And it's just really incredible to see you where you are now. And now you're teaching other people how to be in touch with their roots and connect with their ancestors. And I just want to point out, you said that you were so disconnected and you were numbing out. Um, and I just thought, wow, there isn't a better medicine than cacao because it's so heart opening. And it works with the heart chakra. So that's like a direct antidote, if you will, for someone who was disconnected. And
Right. I mean, I don't think there's coincidences. I believe in synchronicities, and it was a calling. It was like an ancestral calling, like it is time, and this is a divine and sacred responsibility for you to know about this wisdom and for you to share it. Like it is time. Literally, I'm like getting chills saying that because I know that,
mm,
it's so beautiful to have that responsibility and to have that medicine to work with and to share. Yeah.
yeah, so beautiful. What are some facts about cacao that may not be common knowledge?
May not be common knowledge. Well, I will just start at what I feel is like the most exciting thing, the fact that the cacao has been used for thousands of years by our ancestors, right? And people know, I think that the Mayans have worked with it and that it's around Mesoamerica. They say that it was native to the Amazon, that it first came from the Amazon, but that the Olmecas were the ones to actually cultivate it and work with it for ceremonial purposes. And so the Olmecas, who were before the Maya, as well as the Toltecas, the Aztecas, Mexicas, those are our ancestors, right? The oldest civilization was working with this medicine for so many years. The cacao was once used as currency, so it is like gold. They would trade with the beans, which is so beautiful because that really supports an incredible ecosystem where there isn't greed and like hoarding, and it's beautiful. It allows for there to be a beautiful trade because cacao can only last about 2 years, right? So you can't hoard it for yourself and keep it and stack up the bills and keep it in the closet, right? It allows for more reciprocity to like flow through. But cacao is a beautiful superfood. It's a spiritual aid. It's used for everything between life and death, for celebration, for grief, right? It is that beautiful heart medicine. It's an embodiment medicine to allow you to feel deeply into your body. So whatever is present in your body, it'll support you in feeling more deeply. So, if there's grief to feel, you're going to get to really feel it. If you're ready and open to that, if want to connect with the inner child, it's so playful and so much fun. It created me or supported me in my creativity and supported me in writing my first book, A Child of Magic, which was such a beautiful book for the inner child, for adults, and then all of my children's books. So it's this beautiful aid that supports us from everything between, from the jungles to the offices and the boardrooms, and, for the writers and the artists and the creators, all peoples, right? It's a supportive, beautiful plant. And that's why you see chocolate everywhere. But the thing with chocolate is that the problem is that it's so highly processed. There aren't those health benefits in it because the living
Mm,
enzyme, all of the fat is stripped away and you're simply left with the flavor of chocolate. But you have the oils put in, you have the sugar put in, you have that put in into a chocolate bar. So it's not pure cacao. So yeah, when you have it in its purity, it's potent medicine. It's beautiful. It's gentle. It's not a psychedelic, but it is potent medicine. It's heart medicine. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. And thank you for describing the thing about the chocolate too, because I feel like that might be a misconception, you know? Also, when I was first getting to know cacao, one of my friends, he was like, "Isn't that just like hot chocolate?" I was like, "I don't know much about cacao yet, but I don't think it's hot chocolate."
It can taste like a hot chocolate, that is for sure. However,
Okay.
again, yeah, with the hot chocolate, you're getting like a powder. And again, there's no fat in it. So it's stripped of all the fat and you're just getting the flavor. But when you
Okay.
have cacao, you can get cacao powders if you'd like, but you can simply get ceremonial cacao. And there's so many different sources. Somalux is my cacao. I source that from Guatemala to, support the Mayan peoples there, the women's collectives there. And also I source from Mexico and support family farms there. So that's a beautiful source that you can get, but there's ceremonial cacao all over the internet now. It's like, it's blown up and it's so beautiful.
Mhm.
There's so many different options. So, you may want a ceremonial cacao from a different location, maybe in Ecuador or El Salvador, Peru or something like this. So yeah, it's so beautiful. You can make it taste however you'd like. So cacao is actually naturally bitter, but you
Mhm.
will, as soon as you smell it, you smell that chocolate flavor that it's so beautifully known for.
Mhm.
But you get to add it in the ingredients, right? And also when I share with people on how to make their own ceremonial cacao, I tell them not to boil the water and boil the cacao in the water, because then you're just killing the living enzymes. So you want to use like a certain temperature of water, just not boiling, right? Less than boiling is fine. And then you can add your own like cinnamon, your own natural sweeteners. You can add a little coconut milk, and you can have that same potent effect as like having it plain and ceremonial in a ceremony. Or you can make it taste a little fun and beautiful and still have super potent experience in your own rituals. And, in my own ceremonies, I'll mix it up. Sometimes I'll add a little fun flavors to it too.
Beautiful. And what is it in the cacao medicine that actually contributes to the heart opening experience?
Oh, I love this question. So anandamide is the bliss molecule that's within it, right? You also have PEAs and MAOs that support your serotonin and your dopamine levels. There's theobromine that gently energizes us, right? It's similar to that of like a green tea effect. So there isn't very much caffeine, which is nice. So it's a really nice replacement for like matcha or for coffee. There's tons of vitamins and nutrients and antioxidants. It's like an aphrodisiac because of the properties that are within it. So it's very euphoric.
Mm,
And that's that heart opening, expansive feeling. It's going to come through because of those beautiful properties. But then on another level, it's just this beautiful, unexplainable spiritual experience that you can have. Right.
mhm. Yeah. And what is the difference between someone using it as a coffee replacement as opposed to doing it in ceremony?
So there's a big difference, because if you give yourself the time and the space to sit with your feelings and what comes through with the embodiment medicine, you're going to have some realizations, right? You're going to be able to feel the feelings, right? And we get to feel it to heal it. So it could be such a beautiful healing experience. It could be such a playful experience. But if you just drink it and have it as a coffee replacement, then you can go about your day and you may feel really good and euphoric, because it's happening regardless of whether you realize it or not. But there's a difference there that you can feel when you sit with it and you create the space to open up to experiences and having that time for yourself to have the realizations. Yeah.
So beautiful. And
Yeah.
you mentioned that it was cacao that led you on this journey of exploring your roots, connecting with your ancestors. What was that like in the beginning?
So for me, it began with the cacao ceremonies, like I mentioned, in Bali. And then it was me going to Guatemala and connecting with the lands, because I didn't have family from that side that was alive anymore. So for me, I needed, I didn't have anyone to talk to about it. And, there are wisdom keepers in the States, but they're usually in Guatemala, right? And also, I wanted to connect with my ancestors. So I went to Guatemala. I went to the lands of Guatemala, even though I didn't even know where my family was exactly from those parts. I went there, I connected to the lands. I found the wisdom keepers. I found the teachers that supported me, connected to me, that resonated with me. And yeah, now I go almost every year. I visit I guess that would be springtime, usually is the time I like to go. And I like to go to Lake Atilan, or Lake Nashel is how you say it in Mayan. And that's just a beautiful, beautiful location. And there are a lot of people doing beautiful things, a lot of spiritual community, a lot of cacao and wisdom keepers that are around that lake. So it's very special. But that was the thing that was supporting me the most. It was like I can connect directly, and that's what I understood. I can connect directly to the source. I can connect to the ancestors through my intention, and being on those lands activated me, supported me. The first time I went to Guatemala, I remember I was sitting in a shala, and it was an ecstatic dance, and I was looking over the lake, and I saw a blackbird like flying over the lake, and my father's nickname was Crow. So I could just feel the essence of the ancestors there in that space, and it like brought me to tears. It was such a special experience. So that was the biggest thing, is like going to the land. So I recommend that for everyone who's like, where can I have that experience? You can begin by just setting the intention to connect with your ancestors and your roots. Create an altar in your living room, set a designated space where you can go and connect and get still, and invite them in and feel them and meditate on them. Or you can also go to the lands. And I find that that's just such a profound experience. So I highly recommend it if you ever get the chance.
Yeah, beautiful. And why is it important for us to reconnect to our ancestors and our roots?
It's so essential for us to do so, to connect to our roots and our ancestors, more than we can even, I feel like, understand with words. But it is a grounding effect. It's a grounding, a rooting into the earth, so that you can rise up into your becoming, so that you can rise up to be your highest self, to live, confidently, to live more abundantly, to have beautiful relationships and friendships, and to live your best life, right? But it begins like that, with the rooting and the rising, just like that of the tree. And when we see trees, they are the most beautiful embodiment of what it is to live a good life here on earth, right? The tree is rooted, its expansive roots are underneath the soils in the darkness, right? Just like it's important for us to be in the darkness and the void and with our grief, right? And then it's this beautiful, expansive canopy above head, rising up, right, to the heavens, to the cosmos. And it's this beautiful reciprocity that it is just naturally in, because it's interconnected with its roots and through the mycelium network under the earth. It is the living embodiment of reciprocity, of living in a good way, of giving and receiving to everything in the ecosystem around it, right? It's interconnected to all things. So it's living in this beautiful way, and a beautiful example for us to live in a good way as well. So that's what it is about.
Beautiful. And you have a book that will be coming out, but by the time this is going to be released, it'll be out already. So tell us about the book, the title, some great things in there.
Yeah, Remember Your Roots is coming out July 9. And it is a book inspired by Mayan wisdom. It is a book about living, connected to your ancestral power and living a life in gratitude. And it's 13 chapters. It's written very intentionally to walk you through the process of coming back to your heart, to coming back home to yourself, and so it begins with connecting with the body and the mind and the soul, with the ancestors, with relationships, with the elementals, with Mother Nature, with God. There's things that are very important there, as well as like ceremony, and the importance of us creating our own ceremony, of going to ceremony, and how essential it is to be in community and in connection with each other. So yeah, that's a little bit about the book. And I also have the revival that's coming up pretty soon. I think when this comes out, so it'll be over because it's coming up soon, but I will have another one in the fall, which is kind of like an experience for us to come together. And it's like the book in ways. The revival is us practicing in community, gathering together with people from different backgrounds, diverse backgrounds, and us sharing our stories and, really being unity and diversity and just witnessing our stories and uplifting each other. It's really beautiful experience. So I'm really excited for the next one that's coming up. And yeah, we'll have another in the fall too.
Yeah, that sounds so magical. What a beautiful experience to be with others and honor our roots and ancestors in community. And I don't know, I'm not in that realm, so I don't know how often that is happening, but it just seems like a magical experience. So thank you for bringing that out.
Yay. Yes. Yeah. We're gathering over about 40 different speakers from different backgrounds. Like, imagine this. Okay. Opening ceremony is incredible. It's with Marilu, who's a curandera, and she's opening the 4 directions according to the Andean cosmovision, right? And then we're going into the history of the Americas with Luis Rodriguez. We're going into native flute with our brother Pedro. We're going into native hoop dance with Eric Hernandez. We're talking about ancient mysteries as well. And then we're closing out with Mexica dance with beautiful brother Joaquin. So it's just
Wow.
incredible to see all these
I
different
have chills. That's going to be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, how special. Like, I'm so grateful and so honored to bring that together. Like, and it does so much for all of us to see each other's stories. It activates things within us because we may have forgotten ways of the ancestors, right? So much has been lost through colonization. But when we see in others like dance, it activates something with us. Like, codes are being remembered through the act of witnessing each other's beautiful stories. And I love to share this example with the hoop dance. The hoop dance, native hoop dance, is this beautiful embodiment of interconnectedness. The dance is the embodiment of interconnectedness. So when I had first seen it in the revival, it brought tears to my eyes because I was like, that right there is so powerful, so potent. It's hard to put into words what it did for me, but it activated my heart and this remembrance. And yeah, I don't know that dance, but I know that dance. You know what I mean?
I feel that way when I watch Eric's videos. I'm like, whoa, what's happening here? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Wow. So powerful. What are some other goodies in the book that people can look forward to?
some juicy stories, like just telling my story, sharing my wild ride story is fun in there, and the embodiment practices, because it's beautiful to talk about these things, but the embodiment practices that come after each chapter is really, really special and beautiful, and gets us into our bodies and able to connect with our hearts and connect with different aspects of ourselves, and just to feel deeply as well, connect with the inner child, right? To connect with the rage that we may be feeling as, in the collective, there's a lot of pain and a lot of wounds to feel and to move through. So I have rage rituals in there that are going to support you in expressing and letting go, right? And making space so that we can actually come into the embodiment of gratitude, right? It's beautiful to talk about gratitude and to have our journals about gratitude, but what I love are practices to support me in becoming in the embodiment of gratitude, of the expression of gratitude. So it moves through that so that you can really come to that place of like living a life in deep gratitude and reverence for this beautiful gift of life. And I love to share Maltyox. The word Maltyox means thank you. It means gratitude in Mayan. It's Maltyox. And it's this deeply felt gratitude, right? And I love sharing that word because it's an ancient word and it does something, activates something within me as well. And using ancient words are so profound, so beautiful. But yeah, that's some of the beautiful things within.
Powerful. Thank you for that. You mentioned colonization earlier, and for me, just a personal thought, I was also at one point before I did healing and before like I'm doing what I'm doing now, I think I was resistant to connecting to my ancestors because of colonization.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I'm mixed with like so many different things. It's like on my mom's side, there's Filipino and then there's German, and then on my dad's side, there's mostly African American. But because of the colonization, I just knew I'm so psychic and intuitive, even as a kid. I just knew that what I was learning was just not it. And then it just turned me off completely. Do you have any thoughts on that? And is that common?
Absolutely. So was it the things that you were reading that turned you off from wanting to connect with your roots, or right?
Yeah, I think so. Cause it's almost like I didn't trust the information.
That, And I wonder if also, like, for me, I feel like the things that I read were like the things that were talked about from my roots were like put in a bad light. We were looked like bad people, right? Or barbaric people is what I would remember. That's what I remember the most.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Totally. It's indoctrination, it's conditioning from our childhood, from our parents before us, because of what they have gone through and the relatives that have gone through, the ancestors since colonization. Our ancestors had to assimilate, right? They didn't choose, not all of them did not, most of them did not choose to become Catholics and to assimilate into a completely different culture and give up their beautiful practices, the ways that kept them healthy, right? That kept them in harmony, that kept them happy. They had to give all of that up, and they had to become, right, Catholic or Christian and give up all of their ways to assimilate to a totally different way. So when it comes to us, that trickle down effect, right, has then left us in this place of like afraid. There's the fear aspect of like what did happen to the people who fought against that or continued to do their practices, who didn't survive, they died, right? They were murdered or killed, right? Our codexes, all of the beautiful teachings for the Mayan peoples were destroyed, were burned by the Catholic priests, right? So all that wisdom was taken away and seen as evil or bad. And this new religion came in and was like, no, this is the way, and we're here and we saved you. And you were barbaric. Those practices are barbaric. You're not allowed to do them. So that is still within us, right? That generational trauma and those wounds are still there. It makes so much sense that we would then look at those practices, the traditions and the culture and think, oh, there's something traumatizing around that, right? There's something bad there or scary there. And that's why it's important to do this work and to realize and to also educate ourselves and really learn the history and the ancient histories as well, because there's so much beauty from before colonization. The ancient ancestors were incredibly wise. There were so many beautiful practices that they held. And, for the Mayan people, let's talk about the Mexica people, because I just recently really dove into, I'm also Mexican, right? So, and there's Mexica there as well. So I just dove into this history and it's so fascinating. But the Mexicans were mathematicians, right? They were scientists, they were astrologers, they were inventors, philosophers. They were incredible peoples. And as a civilization, they had beautiful cultural aspects to them, right? They lived in harmony. They were biophilic, which means that they were life promoting and encouraging, which means they didn't invent things to take away from life or to infringe upon life or Mother Nature. They were inventors, and yet they never invented a new weapon, but they invented so many beautiful things. They invented porn. They invented the calculator. They invented calendars. They invented, education system. They had the first and oldest government, democracy. So they were inventors. They were incredible humans. They also, there's so many different things. The agriculture that they created allowed them to even have that civilization, right? And there's so many different aspects, but there's so much to learn from them. There's a lot of beauty within the ancient civilizations that we get to learn about too. And I think we've in school been taught that they were barbaric peoples and that the Catholics came in and they saved us is really the story that wants to be told. So there's a lot of pain there and a lot of trauma to feel and to uncover, and a lot of work for us to heal for our lineage, right? right? So it makes so much sense that you would be like, I don't really want to go there because of the trauma, and why it could be so much easier to go into another. And this is why appropriation can happen, because it's so much easier to look at somebody else's thing and be like, oh, for me, let's just go into yoga. Yoga is like this easy, beautiful thing, and it's spiritual, and there's no trauma around it. So it was so easy for me to dive into that. But if you would have given me cacao before that experience, I probably would have thought y'all were crazy, right? I would have thought that was nuts. And I think I even looked at yoga as kind of crazy in the beginning. I had a lot of stories and a lot of shields up around my heart, and a lot of stories to unpack, a lot of healing to do for the lineage. And then, as you begin to trace your roots back and to realize, okay, I'm doing this work to heal for the lineage, you also then uncover there's so much beauty that you get to activate and revive and bring forward. For instance, right, ceremonial cacao, and bringing that into the mainstream. Like, so beautiful to see that coming through. And there's so many different ways, right? Like like the dances, right? Like the foods is a really easy way too, and a beautiful way. And the different ancestral foods that we all have, like in this moment or after this podcast, like check out, what are your ancestral plants? What kind of plants can you work with to connect with your ancestors? Because there's a lot of healing herbs and plants that you can connect with that are consciousness shifting, that will support you in opening your heart and feeling more deeply. And if the easiest thing is for you to work with ceremonial cacao, that'll also support you in connecting with your roots. So it's beautiful that the plants have this intelligence that are here to support you in remembering.
Yeah, that's powerful. So ways that we can connect with our ancestors. I know earlier you mentioned altars, if that resonates with people, plants that correlate to their specific lineage, cacao, any other great tips?
You said going to the lands.
Going to
Exactly.
the lands. Yeah.
Yeah, foods, the different types of foods. Connecting with the solstices, the equinoxes is a beautiful way. Those transitions, those periods of like the thinning of the veils, right? A really beautiful time to connect with ancestors is around Halloween, when the veil is very thin, right? You have Dia de los Muertos, you have Samhain, right? These are like traditional, beautiful practices to connect with the ancestors and holidays. So that's a beautiful time period.
Yeah, I'm gonna set that intention. I feel like every Halloween I end up connecting to like ETs. Right? But if I just change my intention, then I can connect more to ancestors.
Yeah, maybe you're connecting with other ancestors as well,
Too.
who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, you can get the closer relatives and the ancient, ancient ancestors, relatives as well. It's all with your intention. And that's another thing, is like, it doesn't have to be just relatives like your parents before you. There may be a lot of trauma there as well. Or, your recent relatives. It can be the ancient ancestors. It can even be the elementals. So going into nature, connecting with the trees, connecting with the elementals as well.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful. This conversation is inspiring. I've been living in Mexico for 3 or 4 months now, but I haven't done as much of connecting to like the indigenous and the jungles and some of the Mayan sites here. I've done like a little bit of touristy stuff, but not like the deeper connecting things. And so I'm inspired now. I'm gonna definitely make time for that.
Oh, and you'll feel them there. You can call in your
Yeah.
ancestors in that space. That's what they were doing. They literally use those spaces to connect with ancestors. So that's the perfect place.
I feel like it. I feel like one of the cenotes here is like calling me. Every time I drive by it, it's like, come on in.
Ooh, yes, powerful lands.
Yeah, so good. Is there anything else that you want to leave us with? Any other tips or ideas or messages or around connecting with our roots and our ancestors?
Yeah, I think a really beautiful thing I want to mention is connecting with your inner child as well. That's a really important. So many wounds happen around our childhood, and we carry a lot from those times. And a lot of the work that we're usually doing as adults is because there's something around, right? It's rooted from something around that time period as well, not just intergenerational, but from your childhood. So essential to look at this part. So you know, I've written a book, A Child of Magic, which is for adults, but for the inner child. But I also have 8 children's books. So if you want to see something visual, or if you have children yourself and you want to connect with that magical part of you and, you know, read them those books, it's so much fun, so beautiful, so sweet too. But also just in this moment, you know, you can close your eyes, or if you're driving, you know, just intentionally connect with your inner child in this moment. And for us who are here and we can close our eyes and place our hands on our hearts and just take a deep breath. And just, you know, telling yourself that you love yourself, that you are here for your inner child, and that you got you, and that you love you, you accept you, and that you will always be here for you. Yeah. I
Beautiful.
want to leave us with that. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. That was so beautiful. How can people find you and your book?
So my book, you can find me and my book on my website at imchristineolivia.com, or my Instagram, Christine Olivia _ Christine is CHRISTINEOLIVIA. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your time, your energy, and your message. Namaste.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, beauties. Woo.